Hey everyone, good morning to you. My name's Sean LeBlanc and I'm a wedding and portrait photographer based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'm really excited to speak to you this morning about capturing authentic moments on a wedding day. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few photographs that I've taken over the years here. And I'm going to talk about sort of the story and behind it, some of my camera settings, as well as things about composition and lighting. And so let me know that you're out there. Leave a comment below or click that like button, and would love to hear from you. If you do have a question, feel free to post that below. So let's get into it. So this first photograph here, this was from a wedding I photographed in Cochrane, Alberta, not far from Calgary. And so all of the bridesmaids were getting ready that morning. Of course, there was lots of excitement in the air, lots going on. And so I wanted to get something a little bit different here. And they were playing this game where you take basically your iPhone and you place it on your forehead, and sort of an action comes up, and everyone has to act out a different action. And so there was all these incredible moments that were unfolding all over the place. And so I was shooting it from all different angles. I was going wide, I was cropping in, getting close, getting far, getting high, getting low. And eventually I landed on this composition. And all I did here was I had a chair which I placed in behind this bridesmaid just so I could have a bit of a higher vantage point. And I did that to help set context within the photograph. So, if you look at this one here, if I was to just capture sort of all these awesome moments here without the context you see in the foreground, you really wouldn't know what was happening. And so that's why I wanted to have uh, this bridesmaid in the foreground, of course, showing that iPhone shot there as well. And so if we look at the this was the photograph that I shot basically right out of camera. And so you can see here with my settings, I was at f2.8, so I wanted a bit of a shallow depth of field, just so that the foreground was a bit more blurred out, and then the background where all these beautiful moments were all these great moments were unfolding, were nice and sharp. I was using a bit of a wider lens, so a 24 mil, just to bring in some of the elements in the room as well. And so you can see I was a little bit underexposed, and that was just because of this bright light I had in the back here. And so all of this is happening, and I'm just shooting away. And so once I landed on this composition, I just shot through all of these moments. So I took about, I'd say 50 to 60 different photos of all of these amazing uh, interactions they were doing here. And so the end result was this photograph here. And so what I did in post production, I went black and white because I find black and white is a great way to showcase moments. It kind of freezes that point in time. And I cut out a lot of the distractions. So you see here, like on the perimeter of the photograph, got rid of all that distraction. So then all of the focus really becomes on these amazing moments here, and all the with this awesome game that they were playing. And the other thing about this photograph is that there's lots of variety. So lots of different, uh, I guess, facial expressions with everyone that is in the photograph. And so when you have that variety, it really makes it more compelling. And so, and then the other thing I did in post production, I brought up the clarity a little bit, brought up the shadows, just to give it a bit of a high dynamic range look to it. I really like that look. And and then I also dodged up or brightened their faces a little bit, just to draw the eye to those awesome moments there. So that was the first photograph, and sort of the story behind it and how it all came together. So this next one, this was shot literally on the top of a mountain at this wonderful venue called Kicking Horse Mountain Resort out in BC. I photograph out there quite often. Just a beautiful location. But with it being that you're on a mountaintop, there you get a lot of wind and a lot of different weather elements out there. And I've been out there in the winter and the summer, and there always seems to be some sort of element that nature throws at you. So in this case, it was wind. It was so windy, in fact, that the gondolas were completely blowing to the side, and they actually had to shut it down. And so we were waiting for everyone to get up there. And um, the other thing with this is once we were on the top of the mountain, of course the wind was even stronger. And so as this bride was coming down the aisle with her parents, of course her veil was just flying all over the place. Made for amazing photographs. I actually really like having those weather elements there, just to create, another component to the photograph, and help evoke more emotion in the photograph and more moments. So if it's windy or if it's raining or if it's snowing or doing anything like that, I'm actually I think it's fantastic for shooting. And so um, for this photograph, and we'll have a look at the out of camera. So here, I wasn't as I was using a 35 mil. That is pretty much my favorite focal length. I find that it frames really well. It's a great focal length, and so it's often on my camera. I'd say probably 75% of the time. Here I was using a bit of a smaller aperture around at f4.5, and that was because as they were walking down the aisle, I was walking with them, and I tried to keep my distance the same as they were walking down all the way to the front where their ceremony was going to take place. And so at 4.5, even if we were out of range a little bit, I was still able to get sharp photographs. Um, Also using a bit of a faster shutter speed just because things were moving so much, and of course there was a lot of ambient light out there on a bright sunny day. And so, yeah, as they were walking down the aisle, I just continued to shoot. And so for this, I was shooting again probably 50, 60 photographs. And this was one that I felt really came together well. Again, because of the wind, her veil was kind of blowing all over the place. And eventually it blew right in front of, right over top of her. And everyone was just laughing about it. And it was just such an awesome moment. And this was a photograph I really liked because the veil kept flying in front of her dad's face as well, and he kept trying to move it and trying to move it, and eventually he just gave up and kind of threw his hand up like that. And so because I was shooting through the moment, I was able to capture all of that. And then also, if you look here, you have a member of one of the guests that was just a great expression on her face as well. And so with the final photograph, I brightened a lot of the those foreground elements just so they really stood out in the frame. Specifically the dad's hand. You can see Heather's great reaction here, her mom's reaction, also the fact that her mom's hand is lifted up a little bit too, so not out of the frame, so keeping that in the frame. Of course, her wedding guest here with laughing about it as well, and then some of her other guests here. The and as I mentioned in the previous photograph, I took out a lot of those distracting elements around the photograph, so that way, when you look at this, your eye goes directly to the moments here, and rather than all the distracting elements on the perimeter of the photograph. Also, I ended up bringing down the sky a little bit. Again, that was just to draw the viewer's eye to everything that was going on here. And so this was one I felt that really came together and was a lot of fun to photograph. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. Again, feel free to reach out anytime. Drop me a comment, send me a note, and I'm going to be doing more of these. I love to talk about photography. This is a real passion for me, and it's always fun to look at old photographs and kind of go through them and think about what you did for them. So hope everyone has an awesome day. Thanks so much.